My dad's self-worth came from external sources. Then when things didn't go so well, he went bankrupt and lost everything. It completely destroyed him. I wouldn't allow myself to be a victim of life, as I felt my dad had been.
Chris Budd is a former financial planner who believes we're building wealth in completely the wrong way. Because the pursuit of money has given me lots of happiness, to be honest. What I've become more aware of, though, as I get older is it doesn't give me relationships. The pursuit of money without spending it doesn't give me memories.
Understand your beliefs and whether they're leading to good decisions. And it could be things like, I don't deserve money, I don't deserve to be rich. I do deserve to be rich. It can be just as self-limiting.
Lovely attire to me.
Why, thank you. This is from my Dubai collection. My tailor made me some outfits for the wedding I went to in Dubai.
I love the frills.
There are no frills. Don't listen to him. Lies and deceit.
Your tassels.
The pink tassels, yeah. Thanks for joining us. We are called the Making Money Podcast, but you say that we shouldn't really be focusing on money in life. So what's that about?
Wow, straight into it then.
Yeah, yeah, we don't mess around here.
Well, so if you look at what's important in life, money should be our servant, not our master. And I think we start in the wrong place. I think when we're looking to build financial plans and looking at our relationship with money, we start off looking at money and start trying to build wealth, build financial security. And only when we get it do we then look around and realize what we're going to do with it. So we're starting in the wrong place. So the way I put this is there's 3 steps to a financial plan of well-being. And what we should do is we start with step 2. So step 2 is, what does the research tell us about what makes us happy? And there is lots of research. It's been 2,500 years. People have been, all of humanity, people have been thinking about this. Buddha sat down in a grove of trees 2,500 years ago and worked it all out. So this is nothing new here. This isn't my thinking. This is all the research that's out there. And the answer is self-worth. That's a really big source of well-being, right? Feeling content with yourself. And there's 2 types of that. We can have internal or external self-worth. External self-worth is when you get your self-worth from other people. So if you buy a big expensive car because you want to be seen driving a big expensive car, then you've got to have somebody looking at you in that car to get your self-worth. If there's nobody looking at you, you've got to keep driving around until you find somebody else to look at you, right? But if you drive that big expensive car because you love cars and you don't need to be seen, you just love sitting in it, that's fine. That's internal self-worth. Better examples might be creativity or purpose. So that's step 2, understanding the sources of joy and well-being. Step 3 is then, how does that apply to me? What will I get from that? How will I find purpose and meaning in life? What are the things that will give me long-term joy and well-being? And then you start with step 1. You go back to step 1 and say, how much money will I need to do those things? But what we tend to do is we tend to start with step 1, work out ask ourselves how much money do I need without thinking what for? What is that money for? So I think we're starting in the wrong place when it comes to money. We're starting to think about money when we should be starting to think about happiness.
You're a financial advisor and, you were.
Yeah.
And you were quite ahead of your time in the fact of your fee structures back in the day were kind of balked upon at the time, weren't they? And that they were radical. Were you more fixed fee than you were percentage assets under management and things like this?
So though we were percentage, but we logged time. We could,
a solicitor would.
Yeah, justify my time. I logged all hours for me and everybody who worked for me. I sold Ovation Finance back in 2018 to an employee ownership trust, which is another whole topic. But yeah, when I ran it, we were fee based, and back in '98 when I started like that, I was quite literally laughed at by my peers, literally in one case, laughed in my face. And then they're all doing it now.
So what's the shift there in the terms of the fee structure? So how does that affect the incentives of the financial advisor, do you think?
So back in those days, in the 90s, you got paid a percentage for selling an investment product or a life insurance product. That, to be fair, that got abolished for investments and pensions, got abolished in the Retail Distribution Review, whenever that was, 2016, was it? So all firms were forced to act the way that I had been for 18 years by that time. What it does for the relationship with the client is it should focus on a longer term relationship rather than the sale of a product. And the profession has changed massively since those days. And I would say there won't be too many that if you could deal with that would be very transactionally orientated. I would say most financial advisors now would be more long-term relationship. Whether they're doing planning or not is another matter, but they will be much longer term looking. I do a lot of work with business owners who are looking to succession planning because of my employee ownership expertise. And one of the questions I always ask them is, how much do you need to sell your business for? And they'll tell me, well, it's worth 3 million. And I'll say, okay, two things. Firstly, that's a very round figure. I don't trust round figures. You haven't actually done any work on that at all. You've just made that up, or you've guessed. But secondly, I didn't ask what its value is. I said, how much do you need it to be worth? And then they say, I don't, 3 million would be enough. And I say, well, do you have a financial advisor? Yeah, I do. I have somebody that looks after my pensions. And I say, well, do you have a cash flow forecast? And they say, no, we don't. What's that? And they get a new advisor as a result of that conversation, because they need to know that how much do I need figure.
What do you find happens to people that just focus on money and they stay on step one, focus on making money for their whole lives? What happens to them in the long run?
Well, crikey, that's a great question, Tia. Lots of answers to that. Let me give you, there's a particular, so I do lots of coaching with wealthy people kind of after wealth, trying to work out what next, because they've only started on that step one. And I asked the question, what's your money for? And I kind of get a blank look. One of them said, well, I've got to buy an expensive car. And I said, can you explain to me the thinking behind buying expensive cars? I said, well, I need to have something to show for my money. And I said, show who? And he went, oh, yeah, thought about that. The irony was 3 months later, with our next session, he just bought a Bentley. And that's a really important point, actually. Because
did he show it to you?
No.
Come see my Bentley.
He actually, the meeting got interrupted by it being delivered.
No.
So there are a lot of distractions trying to push you into advertising, the whole social, who are we impressed by, who are heroes. There are so many things pushing us down, commercialism, about spending, and that wealth is good, etc. But the research is different. So what happens to them? They never realize. They're not unhappy, maybe. Some of them are. I definitely know plenty of unhappy, wealthy people. But they're not as happy as they would otherwise be. There is a thing called Schwarz's circumplex, which is a psychological theory about values and how you map values against each other. And some values compete with each other. And there's a guy called Professor Tim Kasser who used this model and applied it to money. And he looked at the different values around around life, and found that if you have values that are associated with wealth, with seeing wealth as the objective of life, they are in conflict with values that will bring you joy and well-being. So if you are a person who sees money as one of your objectives of life, you will be unhappier than you could otherwise be.
Damn. You laugh it off.
I've kind of prioritized, we'll get into me later, but I've prioritized happiness over wealth. But Damien, obviously, I don't know, would you say you prioritize money over happiness?
So like one thing that I would get into around this is like, I think where you start is important. I'm prioritizing never financially struggling and never being in the position I was when I was like in my 20s and maybe when I was growing up. And I think I've been like running away from that kind of like not having money.
And I've been like, I had a happy childhood, so I'm like, I've just continued in my Peter Pandem. I'm like, whatever I do, I'm going to be happy. I could be broke, I could be rich, I'm going to be happy. So like, yeah, that's a good point. It's probably where you start off.
Let's talk to that. I can give you some stuff on that. So have you heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
So you've got to be very, very careful when I say more money doesn't make you more happy, because somebody will say, well, look at that guy who's homeless. If he had some money, he'd be happier. Absolutely true. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a really good model for explaining that. If you don't have security, if you don't have something to eat, then you are going to be unhappy, and some money will make you more happy. Absolutely. But as you go up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you don't need money to be creative. You don't need money for self-actualization. So there is a point at which more money will not make you any more happy. Now, well, this is great. I love this one. So there was some research, quite famous research done about 20 years ago, which asked that question: will more money make anybody more happy? And that particular survey found that no, and the amount above which you won't get any more happy is actually quite low. They found it to be 100,000 a year income. Now, 100,000 a year income is a very nice income, don't get me wrong, but it's not 100 million, it's not a billion. Once you get over a certain figure, so this survey said, more money doesn't make you more happy. Then a few years later, somebody did a second survey, and they found the opposite. They found that more money will make you more happy no matter how much you've got. And what I love about this story is the two sets of academics, rather than saying, I'm right, you're wrong, which we might all do, they said, well, this means that we need to get together and do a third study to find out why there's a difference. And in simplistic terms, it comes down to there's two different types of well-being, which comes to the point I was making earlier on about the step 2, step 3. It's short-term. Let's call it short-term and long-term. If you give Elon Musk 100 quid, for a moment, he'll probably feel a little bit happy because Elon Musk likes to have money, I'm guessing. Whereas it might not make a great deal of difference to his long-term well-being, because he's already got plenty of money. So the phrase that I use to describe this is more money will make you more happy if you need money to be happy. Mm-hmm. So above a certain amount, I don't need any more. As long as I can keep buying records and I've got food on my table, and etc., I'm happy. I don't need lots more because I'm not motivated by that. When you then factor in the internal and external self-worth bit, I would suggest that there is a limit to which more money will really give you long-term well-being.
If you're a small business owner, freelancer, or sole trader, then I want to tell you about one of my favourite finance tools in the world, Xero. It's accountancy software and we use it across all of my businesses. So this podcast, my channel and the newsletter. Xero's great because it makes accounting as easy as it can be. And I say that confidently because of my mom. I wanted to get her involved in my business to help with bookkeeping and accountancy tasks like creating invoices and filing receipts. And she said she would do it, but only if we use Xero because she had experience with it from her previous business and absolutely loves it. Your tax returns can be filed directly from within Xero as well, which is especially important with the changes to making tax digital. But what I like most is how easy it is to see what's going on across my businesses. Revenue, profit, cash flow, all the stuff that I need to be on top of. So if you're looking for accountancy software, you should 100% check out Xero. You can get 90% off for 6 months by going to xero.com/makingmoneypodcast. There's a link in the description for you as well and a QR code on screen.
Yeah, because the pursuit of money has given me lots of happiness, to be honest, because it's basically provided me with everything that I have now, in the sense of I get creativity through the pursuit of money because I make videos. In the past, I was, working in a typical kind of like career that wasn't very creative and I felt very unfulfilled. I have like purpose in the sense of I educate people on finances, and I feel like, people come up to me in the street and be like, oh, you've changed my life. So in a way, like this drive towards money has given me a lot of those aspects. Mm-hmm. What I've become more aware of though as I get older is it doesn't give me relationships, and the pursuit of money without spending it doesn't give me memories, and I think the quote from Die with Zero, life is the business of acquiring memories. Yeah. I'm become more aware as I've become into my middle life that one day I'm probably just going to be on my deathbed and I'm going to be like, who is here right now and what do I remember? And that was all that will matter. Yeah. And I think maybe driving towards more cash all the time has taken that away from me.
Yeah. Are you aware of the 5 Regrets of the Dying book? Bronnie
I've
Ware?
heard of it.
Oh, amazing book. Mm-hmm. A palliative care nurse in Australia who, towards the end of her career, wrote a book about what she learned from being with people as they die. And it called it The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Guess what? Spoiler alert, none of them included, I wish I had more money. Yeah. Right? So
it's all like I worked too much.
I was going to say,
I didn't live a life true to myself.
Yeah, the true to myself was a big one for me, actually.
Yeah, which would, if you flesh that out, that's like what? Marrying someone because your mum and dad thought it was the right person, or staying with someone that you shouldn't, or
doing a career that your parents wanted you to do. Rather than, I wanted to be a
dancer.
Now I'm a lawyer because my mum told me to be a lawyer, but I always wanted to be a painter. And that was my passion.
So I'll tell you what, my story is exactly that, if you'll allow me. So when I was 19 and going to university after a year off, my dad, I'm late 50s, so we're talking 40 years ago. And my dad, who was a financial advisor, came from a very working class background. And he said to me, what are you going to do at university? Teacher said to me, what are you going to do? I don't know. I have no passion, particularly on education. So they all said, what are you good at? Okay, well, the 3 A levels I'm doing, economics is the one I'm best at. So Dad said, great, be an accountant because they make good money. And I can't be an accountant. Sorry, accountants, but I just couldn't do that. So we kind of compromised on an economics degree. I absolutely hated my economics degree. And when I look back years later, I realized it was because, so why did I go down that path? Because my parents and my teacher said to me, what are you good at? They never asked me, what do you enjoy? And if they said that, I would have said, well, actually, my best O-level, that's how far back I go, was an A. The only A I got was English language. I like writing stories. So I could have been a journalist. I could have done all sorts of things. And it was only when I realized all of this in my early 40s, when I was getting quite depressed, and I didn't know why, then I realized it was because I wasn't writing. I've since written 3 novels, and the depression went fairly soon after I started doing that. And it was all because the focus was, what are you good at? And for my dad, bless him, it was, how can you make money and have a stable life,
What kind of novels?
Oh, it's a long story.
No, I mean the novels.
That's one of my favourite jokes.
Come on, joke. I was like, how much
It took me a second
you
as well.
longer than me. I was like, no, oh, fuck's sake.
I was just scratching my head like, what? Oh, long story. I get it now.
So they're kind of psychological, kind of fun things. Yeah, I'll tell you one of them, which actually the second one didn't do so well because I don't think I realised it. But I love the idea as a solicitor who's a bit grumpy, and a guy in a flash car overtakes him and flips him the finger as he goes past. And he comes across him a mile later down this country lane, and the guy in the fancy car, expensive car, has crashed. He gets out, the solicitor, he goes over, the guy's alive, so he helps him out of the car, brings him back to his car, opens the boot, puts him in the boot, takes him then back to his house where he takes him up into his attic, ties him up and tortures him to make him a nicer person.
That was from your book?
Yeah.
I hope it's not based on a true story.
We'll see. Not yet.
You'll see.
You'll see. I'm not getting any lifts from you anytime soon.
I love the idea of the subtitle is, how far would you go to make the world a nicer place? Wow. And I find that a really interesting question. I don't approve of his actions, I should state, obviously. It's all fiction.
Well, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm being a good person by teaching this person, but you're actually a bad person.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that? I mean, and we see that around us all the time, do we not?
Yeah.
You mentioned your father.
Yeah.
He was a financial advisor as well, like you. Did I understand he went bankrupt?
Yeah.
How was that?
Great.
Yeah, good. Let the good times roll.
Happiest time of my life, yeah. So I have tried to tell this story on stage and ended up in fits of tears. So bear with me.
Don't feel too bad. I cried when we did Wheels on the podcast, so you won't be the first person crying on this podcast.
Well, I tell you what, I can always outdo that one because I cried at the end of Elf.
Yeah, I'm not with you on that one.
Some adverts get me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, especially after the day after a couple of beers.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
very emotional.
The Durex. I meant Dulux.
Yeah, sure you did, buddy.
That's what's called a Freudian slip.
I meant Andrex.
Yeah, of course
Little
you did,
puppies,
mate.
mate.
What happens if you merge Dulux and Andrex? Yeah. Okay.
Go on, sorry, your father's
That's all right. No, it seems like a perfect segue into my father's bankruptcy. Doesn't it? So I was in my mid-20s, and my dad was a financial advisor, and the recession hit in the early 90s. And he didn't tell anybody that he was struggling, but he ended up going bankrupt. Now, as I said earlier on, my dad was from a fairly working class background. His father had been a road sweeper. So when my dad did okay for himself, he went down the external self-worth route. He bought himself a Jaguar, admittedly quite an old second-hand one, but it was a big deal for him. We had a soda stream, which I can tell you, in the 80s, that was quite the thing, a soda stream.
Is that like an indoor vending machine?
No, it fizzes up.
I don't know what soda
Makes
stream
fizzy
is.
drinks.
Yeah.
Makes fizzy,
Puts the carbonated thing
I've
in
got
the...
you stick the bottle,
Yeah,
you
that's
press
it.
you press the button and it puts air and puts the bubbles in.
But you can also put Coke syrup in and all that kind of stuff. And
Or a bottle of vodka.
Yeah, well...
Fizzy vodka, mate. Don't
It's
do
a
that.
man of class.
Yeah, when I was 13, and probably that wasn't the first thing we went to. But I was the envy. Actually, I wasn't the envy of the estate. They all took the piss out of me because of it, because we were well-to-do, because we had a soda stream. That seemed to be the icon of doing well and showing off. Anyway, my dad's self-worth came from external sources. And then when things didn't go so well, he went bankrupt and lost everything, lost the house, lost the car, literally everything. And he was never the same. It completely destroyed him because his self-worth was coming from external sources. There was no more self-worth. So that was a massive lesson to me. I only kind of really got the whole self-worth bit much, much later. I was reading actually it was a Buddhist book on the beach in beer. And I remember the moment so well. Just put the book down and went, oh my God, I've just realized what happened to my dad. It was all about self-worth. But at the time, it was absolutely horrid. So the phrase that I use is that I wouldn't allow myself to be a victim of life, as I felt my dad had been. It was partly his fault, partly recession, partly external sources. But the impact it had on him was life-changing. And so I've always been therefore quite a low-risk person, and I seek happiness rather than money.
Could you not see or empathise how a financial advisor going bankrupt might destroy him, though? Because it's literally his job, right, to be financially savvy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, less so in those days. In the 80s, it was more about products and getting the right investment for somebody. But yeah, I agree with you. That was his role. Was people looked to him for financial advice, and he went bankrupt. It was all part and parcel of why it destroyed him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what did he do after?
Nothing.
Nothing at all. How old was he when this happened to him?
Well, I need to do maths, and I can't do that quickly. But
Roughly,
well, he probably wasn't far off my age now.
So he still had a career ahead of him potentially.
Yeah, but nobody would employ him. So I ended up employing him when I started my business as a kind of way to help him into retirement. I didn't tell him that, obviously. But
How did it make you feel watching him go through that? And also when you employed him, how did you feel? Was that like weight off your shoulders? Or
no,
make
it
you
was the
happy?
other way around. Running a business isn't something that makes you feel light. It's something that makes you feel heavy, especially a small business when you've got everybody's mortgages depending on you.
Amen.
But yeah, very lonely place. But no, it actually employing him was great because I got to spend some really nice time with my dad, and we had a lot of laughs in those first few years of Ovation when it was just me and him. He made me giggle quite a lot, and he also dispensed some very wise advice.
I employ my mum now. And for the longest time, it was a single parent relationship. My stepdad came along when I was about 14, and he's a great bloke. But yeah, I kind of identify as an only child in that sense. And like employing my mum now gives me such an appreciation of the skill set that she has that basically allowed her to raise me well in the sense of her all the opposite skills for me. She's so organised and detail focused. She's a bit of a bulldog. She whips everyone into shape. You know, she's great. So I think it's a weird thing to employ your parent. That's a role reversal that can be quite challenging.
He would have had to swallow some pride just in doing that. But I respect him for the fact that he did. And he was a brilliant support, and he kept his mouth shut when he'd still be making mistakes. My favourite thing that he did on several occasions was somebody would do something stupid from a big product provider, and they wouldn't have done what they said they were going to do. It caused a big problem to the client, and I would rant and I would rave and I would write out this email. And then Dad would just watch this all happening, across the little office with just the two of us. And then when I'd finished, and I kind of just, right, I'll bloody show him, And he'd look over and said, "You written a complaint letter?" "Yep." "Got it out of your system?" "Yep." "Good, delete it." And it was such good advice.
Yeah.
It was also good advice that he left that to the end and allowed me to get it out.
Go through the process and vent.
Yeah, and then just, no, delete it. And I went, yeah, you're right. That ain't going to do any good, is it?
Do you think your dad had to go through all of that for you to be who you are?
Ooh, that's a hell of a question. I don't know. I don't know the other path.
Yeah, would you have your views on, the way you approached your financial advisor career? Do you think that was impacted by the way your dad's ended?
Definitely, yes. So that charging model that I started that you mentioned at the beginning, that was because I wasn't going to be reliant upon the sale of a product. I would be reliant upon developing long-term relationships, which was unheard of in the late 90s, really. Only one or two other firms doing it. And that was absolutely, I wanted a nice, solid business that didn't need me to go out and sell stuff. And that was absolutely down to my dad. So yeah. I mean, the short answer is yes.
If like someone's listening and they've had that kind of something that's rocked their identity, or someone in their life has had a similar thing where a big part of their identity has been taken away from them and they're struggling, what do you think is a way to overcome that?
Well, I'm not sure I want to overcome it. It's one thing. I mean, you asked the question just then, did your dad influence? Yes, he did. He made me who I am. So was it a bad thing? It's more assimilated, maybe a better word than overcome. There is a lady who was on our podcast a while back, a behavioral psychologist called Sarah Newcomb, and she talked about, I can't remember what the phrase she used, but the big event. We all have a big event in our life, and we think of our life in terms of before that big event and after that big event. Mm-hmm. It might be 2, maybe 3, but usually there is one that we would, when pushed, say that is the one that defined me who I am. And we can kind of get into the subject of money stories and stories we tell about ourselves and that. And sometimes those stories that we tell as a result of our experiences are helpful. Mm-hmm. They make us who we are, they define our values and so on. Sometimes they aren't helpful. And one really important exercise is to understand your beliefs and whether they're leading to good decisions, or are they what we would call self-limiting beliefs. And self-limiting beliefs around money could be things like, I don't deserve money, I don't deserve to be rich. I do deserve to be rich, can be just as self-limiting. I'm not very good with money.
Yeah,
Stock market's not for me. Yeah. Stock market's not for me. That's a common one. All of these things are beliefs that we hold about ourselves. Now, if you will allow me to just get into one particular psychological model called Kolb's cycle of learning, which is how we develop these values and beliefs. So we go through this cycle, according to this model, which is we have an experience, something's happened to us. That creates a reaction in us. We may then test that by doing something. Maybe we'll do that thing again to see if we get the same outcome. And so we go around this circle where we're having experiences which lead to conclusions, which lead to actions, which lead to experiences, and so on and so on. And that's how we develop beliefs. So if I hit my head against a wall, I'll think that hurts. I shouldn't do that again. Maybe I'll do it a second time just to make sure, yep, that definitely hurt. I know that banging my head against the wall is not a good thing to do. That's a belief. But some of these beliefs that we develop actually aren't necessarily true. So if I can take us back to Brexit, we had lots of people who absolutely 100% believed that leaving Europe was the right thing to do, with virtually no evidence upon which to base that decision. Mm-hmm. You also had people who believed that staying in Europe was the right thing to do, with no evidence upon which to base that opinion. But we all have these really strong beliefs. So the phrase that this ends up with is beliefs are not truths. Just because I think something is true doesn't necessarily mean that it is true. And when you go back and apply that to these money stories, these money beliefs around ourselves, it can be a really helpful way of just saying to yourself, is this belief actually creating good outcomes for me? And if it isn't, what would be another belief that might create a better outcome?
Yeah, these scripts, as they're called,
Yeah.
they're like beliefs that we hold in our subconscious often that just spit out a behavior. I don't trust pensions.
Yeah.
Is a big one for people that went through the Robert Maxwell kind of period.
I do trust property.
Yeah,
Yes.
safe bricks and mortar, or the stock market's high risk, you're going to lose all your money. And then, because someone said it to you once when you were a kid, or your parents lost money in the stock market, so you're like, I'm never going to invest in the stock market. And then you hold that belief the rest of your life.
Yeah, one of my friends, his family have done quite well in property over the years. And I was having a drink with him the other day, and I was talking about the stock market, and I talked about index funds, and he just kind of went, index funds, silly. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, it's all just like numbers. It's not real. It's not tangible. I like property because it's tangible. I was like, you got a Tesla on the drive, mate. Don't tell me that Tesla's not, owning a slice of Tesla's not a tangible business. You've literally got one right there. You know, it's weird how people are like, oh, I can touch the bricks. You can go to Coca-Cola's headquarters and see that that's a real business. You can go into every supermarket in the country and see that this is a real product.
The phrase that particularly resonates with me is, I just want the money in my hands. I
like it under the mattress, or
that's right. Yeah,
I like cash.
Osborne did pensions freedoms. Most ridiculous phrase you've ever heard in your life. What was his name? George Osborne. Pension freedoms. I'm going to offer a personal political opinion here, which is I think he did that basically to raise lots of money to lower taxes to buy an election. It was an awful thing to do. Now,
because it gave people the ability to spend their pensions,
to take all their pension money out in one go.
And that created tax.
And the classic example was you can take all your money out of the pension and buy a Ferrari, as one of the politicians.
Or a parking space in Dubai, didn't we? Yeah, that's what people were doing.
But you paid lots of tax. So in terms of tax, it was an absolutely terrible thing to do. Pensions are there to give security in longer life. So they're not bad. But I had one friend who took all of his money out from a pension to buy a buy-to-let flat. And when I pointed out to them at the time, he was taking money from outside his estate to inside his estate from inheritance tax. And he was going to be paying 40% tax on 70% of the amount of money that he was going to get. All of these reasons why he shouldn't be doing it. And he just kept saying, yeah, but I just want my hands on the money.
It is your money. It's in your pension,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You've already got it. You can take it whenever you want.
So lots of people have those sorts of hang-ups around different types of money, and they are a type of self-limiting belief. But the sort of self-limiting beliefs that I'm talking about are more about your behaviours. The fact that we could talk about spending, for example, spending habits. I'm fed up, so I'll buy something to make me feel better. That's a belief. Well, if you can afford that, great. But if you can't afford that, that's going to actually cause you a problem and is therefore a self-limiting belief.
The only thing more annoying than an ad slot is compliance.
Facts, but both are crucial.
Compliance often gets in the way of scaling a business because as you grow, you need to prove you're compliant with various rules and regulations for other businesses to work with you.
This is where our partner Vanta comes in. They automate compliance for security protocols like GDPR, HIPAA, ISO 27001, and SOC 2.
Compliance is one of those things that you have to do to have a seat at the table, but it takes time, effort, and lots of money, which is why we love Vanta.
Vanta saves you up to 90% of the time it takes to prove you're compliant with these standards. And on average, $500,000.
If proving your compliance is something that you need to get done, you can get started at vanta.com/making money. There's a link in the description, and we've also put a QR code on screen. Yeah, So I know people that are pretty bad with money, and because they've struggled all month when they get paid, they're like, I deserve to blow a load of money, and then they're back in the cycle of being skinned again. Do you know what I mean?
I'd want to ask, I'd be interested to know with those people, what is it that makes them think that the thing that they're buying is going to give them well-being? I'd like to explore that with them. It could, I'm not a psychologist or therapist, so I'm not going to get too deep into this, but a lot of that will go back a long, long way. So let me tell you a quick story. There's a guy called Mark Bristow, one of the very early people on our podcast, and he's a money coach. And he told this most amazing story. He, all his life, had been that person that you've just described. Never really accumulated much wealth, never put money into savings and pensions, always blew it, and quite often on other people, buying gifts and so forth. And on his kids when he had kids. And it was quite late in life that he went for some therapy in his case. And they took it right back to, he was a small child in a department store with his mum and dad. And his mum, he got lost. And he was lost for about 10 minutes in this department store, which is pretty terrifying, at the age of 4 or something like that. And then when his mum found him, absolutely tore him off. Shouted at him and told him off because she was scared and worried. Can't blame her. You can understand the situation, but for him, that set in his brain, my mum doesn't love me.
Oh,
and he kept that belief without realizing it all his life, and it was a lack of self-worth that meant that when he got money, he would just give it away because he wasn't worthy of having money. So that's how deep these self-limiting beliefs can go.
Wow.
Do you think it's always that deep that for people? I had like some therapy and I found it kind of annoying sometimes that I would be like, I just want to talk about work this week. And it's like, yeah, so tell me about your mother. And I'd be like, oh, the relationship with your mom when you were 5.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it always that?
How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb's got to really want to change.
Yeah.
So it's that space,
because it can feel quite overwhelming in order to realise why I blow all my money, I've got to uncover childhood trauma that I'm not even aware of. That to me
it depends how deep the problem is, doesn't it? I always stress to financial planners who, so I founded an institute to help people, financial planners, do this. I do talks and all the time I write articles, and I'm always keen to say you're not therapists. So if somebody starts to uncover this sort of stuff, you need to stop because you're not trained to do this. They need to go and get a therapist. All we're trying to do in this financial well-being space is to just ask a few questions to open up the mind a little bit. So you're absolutely right. You've got to be careful sometimes with this stuff. So it depends on the person, doesn't it? And how serious the issue might be, you know.
Can we have some of those questions so that people at home can kind of play along? Like, what are some of the questions that you would ask someone to open up?
What does money mean to you? Is one of them. So, but actually, do you know what? This comes back to the "I wouldn't start from here" point. A lot of a very trendy question in financial advice circles over the last decade has been about this: what does money mean to you? What's your relationship with money? Actually, let's get away from the money.
How the hell do you answer that as well?
Well, yeah, it's a really meaningless question in some ways. So, what makes you happy? What brings you joy? Look back in life.
Question.
Look back in life, and what were the times that gave you joy?
Can I be really honest, right? Like, I said this to my partner the other day. Whenever I go to the till now and I buy something and I don't have to sit there looking at the receiver going, is this about to bounce? You know, I get so much joy out of that. I walk up in the petrol station, scan it and turn off and walk away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know it's going to clear. That is, honestly, this elevates me, this feeling. It's like a feeling of freedom. And I get so much joy out of that. And that's a money related feeling.
I'm not going to try and analyse you, Damien.
No, go for it.
Go for it.
No, I'm really not, because I'm not qualified.
I want the free
to.
session.
But what you're doing there is you are anchoring your well-being to money.
Yes.
So what makes you happy? What brings you joy? And I'm not, you can answer that yourself if you want, but...
I mean, for acting on, because we were thinking about this before this episode, and I think what makes me happy with money, or like what's my relationship, and for me, it's just like you being comfortable, because I've driven my Mercedes into a petrol station way before the podcast, and I had £1.22p, and I'd like scoop that from my car, put £1.22p in my Mercedes and drive off, and that was my life. And then I'll go into Tesco's and I'm like, is the car going to decline? Or I'm on holiday. And just now I came back from Dubai, and obviously a war started and lots of flights got cancelled. And I'm thinking, like, we talk about emergency funds on the podcast. I would have been stuck there and like, I can't afford a hotel, the old me, because I just lived very like on the paycheck to paycheck. So for me, the ability to be like, if something goes wrong, I can afford to buy another hotel. Mm-hmm. If my son wants something, I can buy it for him. If I want to go on holiday, I don't have to be like, can I afford it? For me, it's not about owning a Lambo. It's about being free to do what I want. And that doesn't need to be spending, just the freedom.
Feeling anti-fragile.
Yeah, feeling my whole life could be rocked if something happens.
So you asked for a question that your listeners could ask themselves. This is quite a good question. So you've got that now. You've got that degree of financial security. Then what happens?
What's next? Enjoy life. Go on holidays.
Tell me how you'll enjoy life.
Take my kid on different holidays. Be able to send him to a good school. That's the next thing on my list, because private school is expensive. So yeah, maybe look at that. But yeah, really just provide for my family. I'm happy every day. Like no matter what I do, I'm happy. I enjoy my job, which I've always thought it's really important to enjoy your job, because people go 9 to 5, they hate their job, just working to make the money, but I actually enjoy what I do, this and my sales job. So
what is it you enjoy about your job?
Talking to people, going to events, traveling, meeting new people. Yeah, it doesn't feel like work when you're, just having cool conversations and then you do a deal at the end, you get some commission. Rather than like typing, being an accountant, I would hate that, or something with the screen all the time. I like interacting with people. So just being happy, really, and being able to have the freedom.
So I won't ask any more questions, but if this was a financial planning meeting that I was running, I would keep going and keep asking you about what it is that you get, where does well-being come from your job, this kind of stuff. Because... Look, let's get a bit of theory out to try and explain what I'm getting at here. So one of them is about how money can actually get in the way of well-being. There was a study done in Canada where they put an advert out for blood donors. And they got a whole lot of people emailed their responses in. And they emailed them back and they said, they put them into 3 groups. The first group, they said, see you on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. By the way, if you turn up, there's $50 in it for you. The second group, they said, if you turn up, there'll be $50 we will give for charity. And the third group, they said, if you turn up, there's no money, you'll just turn up and give blood. The lowest turnout on the Wednesday was from the group they offered money to.
Really?
The highest turnout was from the group they offered no money to.
People give blood to feel good.
It's purposeful. You don't give money because you want, give blood because you want money. And money actually got in the way of it and put people off. So money can actually be the enemy of purpose. So what is it that you get out of life that gives you joy and well-being is the question to be asked. When you get people who are, sometimes you get to deliver that. The favorite line of any financial planner is, good news, we've done the cash flow forecast. You're working now because you want to, not because you have to. Right, lovely thing to be able to say to a client. Then you might say, so what will you do next? And they might say, well, I'll carry on working because I enjoy it. Great. They often will say, I'm going to stop right now. Okay, then what happens? Then what will you do? The number one answer, I would say 19 times out of 20 will be travel. Because we've all put that off through our working lives with a limited amount of holiday. Okay, so you're going to go to Machu Picchu and do the trip of a lifetime. When you come back, then what happens? What will you do then? Because going traveling isn't a purposeful thing. It's an enjoyable thing. One of the chapters in my book is called Beware the Bucket List, because people often want to tick off that bucket list and do the things they've been putting off. And that's great. That's fun. I'm not saying don't do that, but once you finish that bucket list, then what happens? Where does meaning and purpose come in your life? Because that is one of the biggest sources of well-being.
Yeah, one of my friends was in a pretty bad car crash. He's fine in the end, but he got a big payout as a result of it. And he's done that kind of like traveling thing for a while because, he bought a couple of houses and lives off the income essentially from the money. And I'd meet up with him and he's like, I don't know, I don't really want to go abroad. He's like, you're just spending all of your time with people that are just kind of in this halfway house stage of life of, I'm looking for something, like people who travel. It's like, they're either quite young. He's like, I feel like I'm getting old now for a lot of the places. I went to Thailand and I felt like I was on OAP. So you go to Bali and it's just kind of people that are just floating around and a lot of lost souls. And he's like, I'm done with it. And now it's like, what am I going to do? Just never work again?
So he's still in step one.
Yeah.
He hasn't looked at step two, the theory of joy and well-being, and he hasn't looked at step three, how will that apply to him? That's why that model works so well, because we all get to step one and try to build financial security without thinking what's next. Let me give you another bit of theory. So there's a quite well-known Harvard study on happiness, where they went to lots of teenagers, 18-year-old or so. Half of them were Harvard students, half of them were poor area of Boston, where Harvard is. And they said to them, what do you think will make you happy as you go through life? And overwhelmingly, they all said, money and fame were the two things that they expected to bring them well-being. And then they went back every 2 years and said to them, how happy are you? And what are the sources of your happiness or otherwise? And they kept doing that now for about 80 years. They've got lots of other cohorts, so there's this massive longitudinal study. And overwhelmingly, what happened was people who said that they were wealthier were no happier than people who were not wealthy. And people who were famous were no happier than people who weren't famous. That was not a contributor to their well-being. So what was? The quality of their social relationships. Not the quantity, the quality of their social relationships. So if you've got some money and you're feeling a bit unhappy, think about, is your money helping you create communities, be involved in a community? So one of the things that I do, my life has changed since studying this stuff. I wrote the Financial Wellbeing book 10 years ago, and my life has changed since I've done that because I applied the principles. One of the things I do is I love music, and I love vinyl. So I now buy and sell vinyl at markets. So twice a month I'll Sunday market, and I'm there selling a £4 Simply Red album, or a bit more expensive Smith's album. But what I love about it is people come up and have a chat. And they talk about music. And I've got such brilliant stories from people telling me about how music has made such a big difference to their lives and what records and all this kind of stuff. Just brilliant fun. And I get so much well-being from doing that. And I buy collections off people, and I keep all the ones I haven't got, whispering quietly. And I sell the other ones. But it's such a joyful thing to do. And it's not about money. It's about connections and social relationships.
I got recognized on the plane by two of our listeners. Shout out, you guys, appreciate you. And we just had like the best chat on the plane. They're like, oh, what's your podcast? And then we were just chatting. And like, for me, it's screw the fame. Obviously, I thought I just want the money, not the fame. But I like just.
He wants the fame.
I want the clout. I'm a clout demon. No, I just I like talking to people and like learning about them from different. I did anthropology in uni, so I like learning about different societies, different people, what makes people tick. This guy's from Liverpool. He watches a podcast. This guy's from like France, he watches the podcast and like the difference in their attitudes to money and just learning about people is cool, I think.
Yeah.
But have you found, when you have financial milestones in life, like you got a raise at work or something big, you get a big bonus, how do people kind of act afterwards? Because every time I've chased a raise and I got the raise, I'm like happy for a day or two.
Yeah.
I need another raise, by the way. I'm happy for a day or two, but then it just kind of blends into life. You're not like, it's not as on the journey to the raise, you're really excited. And then when you get it, you're happy. And then 2 days later, it kind of feels like life is back to normal.
Yeah.
So is there something about financial milestones?
Well, you've just segued beautifully into set point theory. So
that's what I meant to do.
Yeah.
What's set point theory?
Very good. I was hoping I'd get one of those during this. So set point theory is a model of happiness that there was one study done. Let me ask you a question. So there were two groups of people. One had won a life-changing amount on the lottery, and one had had a life-changing accident, loss of limb type accident. And they asked these people how happy they were before their life-changing event and how happy after their life-changing event. What do you think the answer was?
I know, so I'll let you.
Well, I mean, if you lost a limb, I'm pretty sure you're happier before than afterwards. But for the other side, you'd be happy afterwards if it was something good.
Yeah. So the answer was that there was no difference.
The expectations, right?
Yeah.
The person who lost their limbs probably thought that their life was over. And then 6 months down the line, they're like, it's not, I feel happy. The person who wins the lottery probably thinks, all my problems are solved. But 6 months later, they've still got problems. So your expectation of where you're going, it's that trajectory, isn't it?
There's a great quote I heard attributed to George Michael, which was, being wealthy doesn't solve your problems, it just gives you different problems. Which is quite like. So
Notorious B.I.G., more money, more problems.
There you go.
I think Zig Ziglar, we all know money won't make us happy, but we all want to find out for ourselves.
Yeah, or Spike Milligan, they say money won't make you happy, but I'm willing to take my chances.
T is making money, I want to make more money. Follow me on Instagram, T is making money. Yeah, I ran out of people to quote.
Yeah, we had a little quote off.
So set point theory is exactly that we go through life with a set level of well-being, okay? And it doesn't tend to change long term. So you'll probably know somebody that is just happy being miserable, right? And then you'll know somebody like my daughter who just is always looking for joyful things to be doing. When she walks into a room, we all feel a little bit better. But we all have our own set level of well-being. And what happens in the moment is something happens to make you happy or something happens to make you sad. So we oscillate around that level of well-being. Something makes you happy, that feeling will dissipate and you'll just revert back to your set level. Something might make you sad and after a while you acclimatize and you'll go back to that set level of well-being. So we oscillate around. So you get a nice big bonus, you spend it on something, that makes you happy, but after not that long a time you realize that actually it hasn't made that much difference. Now, when we go above and makes us happy, that's great. You're not going to sabotage that in any way, of course. When you go below, then that's not so nice. When you feel sad, you want to get back up to your set level of well-being. So we do stuff to give ourselves a short-term hit of well-being. And what do? We buy shit. It's even called retail therapy. It's got a name. Retail therapy is not a good thing. Retail therapy is
sometimes it's good.
Sometimes it's so good.
It's good.
Well, if you can afford it, it is. So I love my cricket. I went to see Gloucestershire play a game of cricket. It was started to rain. Stayed there for an hour. And after an hour, I gave up. I came home. And on the way back, I stopped in Rough Trade Records and I bought 2 records for 50 quid. And on the car on the way back, I went, you idiot. You've literally done the very thing that you do lectures about. But I can afford it. I could afford that 50 because it didn't cause me a problem. But there will be plenty of people out there whose spending habits are causing them a problem, and understanding that it's not their fault. It's because of this short-term hit that they need of well-being. So what could they do instead? They could get that hit. Yeah, just go outside and stand in the sunshine. Hug a loved one. Delay. Delay is a really good tip. So my spending habits have changed. If I see that there's an album come out that I want to buy, for example, I'll go on Amazon, stick it in my basket, and I will then leave it for a few days. And after a few days, I'll go back and look at it and go, do I actually want that? And yeah, maybe I do, so I'll buy it. But quite often, I'll go, no, I must have just been feeling a bit low a couple of days ago, and delete and get rid of it. So if there are people who are listening who have got spending problems, then there are other ways of getting your well-being than spending.
I was going to say, other side of the coin, is there a time in your life when chasing money is good? Like, just, lock in, like, the next 5 years, I'm just going to work 10-hour days. Like, maybe you start a business, or, like, I don't know, you have your first kid or something. Are there times when it's good to just forget everything else, forget my well-being, I'm just going to lock in and focus on money? I've never done it myself because I always just want to have a good time. But are there times when you should say, forget everything, forget my health, forget my relationships, I'm just going to... Damo can probably relate.
I've been locking in since I was about 18, mate, I think.
Yeah, I need to unlock you, mate, get you out. But yeah, like if you've got a lot of debt, for example, things like that.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to say you should never do that, because I'm not trying to live other people's lives for them. I just get the theory out and the research out, as well as my own lived experience and at the time of 20 years as a financial planner, and say I've never yet seen that being a good thing. Not exclusively.
Not at the risk of everything else, not at the detriment.
Of course, if you've got massive debt, getting out of it is a really important thing to do, but that's not at the expense of seeing your kids.
Or like being healthy.
Yeah, exactly. So in the early days of Ovation, I sat down with my wife about 5 years in. The first 5 years were really, really hard. I've still got the scars. We talk about the dry toast days, because there was one day I had to have dry toast for my lunch because I couldn't afford to go out and put anything on it. And after 5 years, I said to my wife, I think this is going to be okay. I think I can build this into a decent little business. Now, we've got a decision to make. I can either work really hard, 10-hour days, 6 days a week. I will try and get home to see the kids before they go to bed, but I won't be here for tea. And I'll be gone before they get up for school. And I think we could be quite rich. I think I can actually build this into quite a big business, and we could be quite wealthy. Or for the next 15 years, I can be taking the kids to school, home for tea, tucking them into bed, not working weekends, and I think we'll be okay. What do you want me to do? And, sorry, I knew it was going to go at some point. Without a beat, she said the second. Yeah. Without a second's hesitation, she said the second. So that's what I did.
But if she said the first, would you have...
Oh, I would have said no.
Yeah, leave her. Well,
you're the wrong woman for me.
Your wife. Yeah, right. I probably would have had a go at it, and I think it probably would have made me very unhappy. Well, I don't think. I know it would have made me unhappy. I have a very good relationship. We have a very close family. I very love my kids, and that was absolutely the right decision. So, to go back to your question, not at the exclusivity of health, social relationships, etc. It ain't worth it just chasing the money at the exclusivity of that. It doesn't work. It doesn't bring well-being. And there are many, many wealthy people who look back and say, I wish I'd spent more time with my kids, like that Bronnie Ware book, 5 Regrets of the Dying. Nobody said, I wish I'd spend more time at the office.
I'm so glad you said I reaffirmed my life, because my dad was he was in oil in Nigeria, and he was flying like every month, 1 month in London, 1 month in Nigeria, but then he took us on loads of holidays. So like we had lots of family time on holidays, but generally he'd be gone for a month, and he still does it to this day. But me, once COVID hit, I said, I'm just going to work from home forever. I go to the office 1-2 days a week, but I pretty much work from home. I can pick up my kid from nursery. And for me, that's more important to me than, I keep getting job offers. Come to this country, come do this. And I'm like, but I won't have the freedom to come and do the podcast. I won't have the freedom to work from home, pick up my kid from nursery, spend time with him, take him to the park in the middle of the day, go do calisthenics, workout in the middle of the afternoon. So yeah, I think, I'm glad you chose the second choice. I'm trying to choose the second choice as well.
Go back to that 3 steps. Step 2, which should really be step 1, is my point, is understand what the theory says about what makes us happy. And it's those 5 parts of well-being, and a blend between them, and money being used to further those. Then, how does that apply to me? What will give me purpose and meaning in life? Am I getting good quality social relationships? Then, how much money do I need to achieve all of those things? And the thing is, when you do it that way around, the amount of money you need is an awful lot less than you thought. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who are the happiest people in the world? I would say Buddhist monks. Never seen an unhappy Buddhist monk.
And they don't have much.
The whole point is that they don't have anything. Now, I don't want to be a Buddhist monk. I don't want to have nothing. I like my records. I like my books and what have you. But I don't need anything like as much as I thought I did when I was 25.
Have you ever failed to change someone's opinion?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, my Lord. All the time. Lost friends on the odd occasion. My epitaph will be, he was never too far from an opinion. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. But if somebody's got a different opinion that's valid, That's cool.
It's science-based,
Yeah.
peer-reviewed.
My opinions are not, my beliefs are not truths, right?
Yeah.
Goes back to that. So if somebody got a different opinion to me and I try and explain it why they're wrong and they don't agree, I can see they've got a good point. Yeah, fair enough. But there are plenty of people out there who think that accumulation of money is the point of their life and that will make them happy. And I know that that's not right.
You might hear wood chipping outside because in this week's episode of The Neighbours Doing Random Ass Shit while we film, there's people on the street chipping up trees, mate.
Last time they were digging out an alcove next door, now they're just digging up the road outside. So
Yeah.
So do you advertise a date when you're going to be doing this so then the council can find
out?
Like,
it's a bit mad.
Wrong,
we only film 2 days out of every 6 weeks, but it just so happens that the hard labour happens at the time that we're doing it. So you say you struggle to convince some people. If someone is listening now to all the friends that didn't, that you've lost over the years, or just someone at home that's like, nah, I'm not convinced, what would you say to them?
So I went on a Buddhist course a few years ago for the philosophical kind of perspective because it's a really interesting philosophy, Buddhism. And there was quite a lot of people, 50, 60 people there for this course. And quite near the beginning, we were all sent out to go into our own little rooms with about 5 of us with one of the leaders. And we were just discuss with each other why you are here. And why have you come to this course? And the leader was gentle soul. We all said something similar. We all said we just want our brains to slow down a little bit. Life is just happening so fast. We just want to find some calm and peace in the world. And then somebody said to the leader, if Buddha was here, Buddha himself was here, and we asked him the question, the meaning of life and what will make me happy, what would he say? And the leader smiled and said, he'd probably say, go and have a cup of tea. You'll work it out. And I thought, this is the religion for me. I love that. No finger wagging. No, this list of things to do and don't. You'll work it out. So I'd say something similar. If you're not happy, do something about it. Happiness takes work. Happiness doesn't happen to you. Happiness takes work and effort. And in this world that we live in, there is so much crap going on. The news is so depressing.
Oh my gosh.
Advertising exists to make you happy, right? So there's one thing you can do. Shut out advertising from your life. When I go to the movies, my son and I love going to movies together. So he will go in first, watch all the adverts and the trailers, and I'll sit outside reading a book. And only when the film starts will he text me and I run in and start watching the film. I will do anything to avoid adverts because they are designed to make you unhappy. That's why they exist, to say you're
unhappy, you need this thing to make you happy.
Yeah. So it takes work to be happy. Just have a think about it. And if what's making you unhappy, and change it.
Yeah, one thing that I've done to improve my happiness recently is I've installed minimalist phone, not sponsored in any way, just basically makes my phone into a brick. And anytime I go on certain apps, it'll be like, do you want 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 15 minutes? And that's your lot. And as soon as you've done 15 minutes, it kicks you out. And then you kind of have to jump through loads of hoops to get back in. And anytime I find myself on social media, I stop and I just go on Audible instead and listen to an audiobook. Yeah. And basically, I'm just craving something in my ears or content. We live in this world, don't we, of I can't go to the toilet without having some content playing, basically, as I walk up the stairs. Just replace that with Audible, getting through like loads more books, much wider perspective on the world and people's points of view. I'm listening to a book at the minute, which is... it's about a morbidly obese man who can't get out of his bed, and then the apocalypse hits, and it's set in in the COVID, and basically his fat reserves are the thing that keeps him alive. And it's about his lived experiences. He comes to terms with the fact that the whole world is dead because the Just Eat app won't work, and he's like, why can't I order my 6 pizzas? But then listening to this man's daily struggles and his life, and actually how, because he's sat in this bed for 15 years, he's researched all these random things, so he's hyper intelligent. He's very humanizing of people that I probably looked at in the past when I've seen them and been like, you look at them, you look at their problem, you don't look at them as a human. So reading is whereas content is very much, a lot of the news just
is the opposite of that. It dehumanizes people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And LinkedIn is just all about people shouting, "Look at me, look at me, look at
Oh
me."
my
you know.
God. I hate LinkedIn.
I actually,
Unless you want to sponsor the podcast.
So I quite like social media if it's well curated. So I've moved from Twitter onto Blue Sky, and I like Blue Sky because I follow nice people.
Well, we like to think that we put out positivity. So I try and make finance content on the main channel that can literally help people improve their lives. So they can take something out of the screen and do it in their life and it get better. And then we try and have conversations here that are not overly negative where possible. Sometimes in the financial world, it can get a bit negative, but
my social media, I had an app like that turns off my social media after like 20 minutes, but obviously I just open it again, get back on Instagram. But what I've noticed is like you'll be chilling and you see like a war, someone get blown up, all this depressing stuff. I follow 2 new pages. One is End Doom Scrolling. They've got the best videos of like random people throwing rocks down hills and stuff. And then halfway through the video, it stops and it's like, this is how many hours people spend on their lives on Instagram. We'll show you the rest of the video after, but like, could you be doing something better with your time? And I'm like, thank you. Then I leave. And then there's another one called the Good News Movement. So instead of showing like all these wars, it just shows you like this father saving a kid, this woman that's cured a disease, someone's dog who with 3 legs that's been adopted, all the good stuff that goes on in the world that no one shows you because they just want to scare you and make you depressed. So those 2 pages, one gets me off the app and the other one shows me there is good in the world. They've increased my happiness so much.
Yeah. Look, if your listeners wanted to take one thing away from this, and it's not about money, and yet it is, because as I say, money is a distraction as much as it is a help. There's just one word that sums it all up. If you want to be happy, there's just one word that sums up happiness: kindness. Just be a bit more kind, and you'll be happier. There's a great line, many books I could recommend to you, but one of my favorites is The Book of Joy, which is a discussion between Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama about what is happiness, what is joy. And there's a lovely line in there from Archbishop Desmond Tutu when he says, "Joy is your reward for the giving of joy." Mm-hmm. Isn't that a great line? Kindness is selfish. Being kind makes you feel good.
It's impossible to feel good if you're angry at people.
Yeah.
You know, if you're shouting at someone because they've done something wrong, internally you feel like angry and tense. Yeah. Whereas if you're kind to people, you feel happier, right?
Don't try and win the argument online. Try and understand the other person's perspective. You know, just be a bit kinder in life, and that will make a big difference.
Yeah, we'll just block them. See ya.
Damo, what do you think about that one?
I loved him, mate. You can tell that he is friends with Pete Matthew. You know, they got a similar kind of...
Similar vibe, similar energy.
If you don't know what we're talking about, we'll leave that episode for you here for anyone that's on video. And if you're listening on audio, we'll put it in the show notes or wherever you get the links from. And we'll see or hear you in the next one.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.